Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You are listening to Ramadan FM on 87.7 FM with me, Tasneem. It's going to take me a while to get warmed up to this because it's been a good year since we done this last. But I'm joined by my friend and very knowledgeable postnatal practitioner, Nafisa, today. I have apologies from Afwana, who was supposed to join us in conversation with regards to touch, bonding and attachment with babies. And Nafisa's very kindly stepped in to talk about the immediate postnatal period and planning for the postnatal period. For those of you who may not have listened in to previous years on the show, I'm Tasneem and I am a midwife by trade. I also have dedicated a lot of my time for the past 6 years into creating holistic therapies, but also a very old school way of doing midwifery, which is very hands off. It's very with woman. It's very listening to what the person in front of you wants. And so much so that my work every year takes me in a slightly different direction, or it kind of aligns with something different. And this particular year, it seems to be that the postnatal period is very much important. In previous years, we've talked about labour, birth, and we touched on the postnatal last year, but I wanted to really focus on it this year. So inshallah, over the course of Ramadan, we have a variety of guests coming on. So I'm trying to secure someone to talk about the mental health side of the postnatal period, inshallah. And on the 13th of March, I will have Carrie, who is a women's pelvic health specialist physiotherapist, who works with a company that provide postnatal therapy to women who may suffer with things like scar tissue or scar issues, pelvic floor issues, and we're sort of really going to try and get into a lot of what the postnatal period is about, because a lot of people, and Nafisa, you're going to agree with me on this, is a lot of people think that the postnatal period is very much about, oh, you know, my stitches have healed and that means I'm recovered. Whereas what you'll find and what we hopefully will be able to achieve today is the understanding that actually the postnatal period is beyond stitches, it's beyond external healing, and it's more about going really deep and understanding what is true postnatal healing when it comes to ancient traditions and wisdom, especially within our South Asian culture. There's very much a protected postnatal period for most of us, and alhamdulillah, I know from my own personal journey, my mom was so like hot on food, and I kept saying to her, and I actually said this to her yesterday, I said to her that she was saying something about, so my brother's wife's just recently had a baby, and she was telling me about what she was going to have for dinner, and I was like, oh mummy, I don't think that she should be having peas for dinner. So my sister-in-law, I will speak to you about that later, but we were laughing because I said that when she did it for me, I kept saying to her, Mum, I understand that you're telling me to do this, but I need to know the science behind it, because unless I know the science behind it, I don't see the benefit of it. And bless her, my poor mum, she couldn't tell me the science behind it because it was just something that she was taught. So hopefully these shows are going to be able to provide more of you with an insight into what you might want to think about planning, inshallah. So I am accepting questions. I've got quite a few that have come through on Instagram, so I'll share them hopefully later. We'll take about 10 minutes and answer some questions. But the studio line is 0116 482 2086 if you'd like to call in and be a part of the conversation. Or you can text or WhatsApp on 0774 88 55055, and that will be for asking any questions, comments that you might want to share, inshallah. So just let us know. And yeah, so I'm going to ask a huge amount of questions to Nafisa because bless her, she has had an incredible year. So for those who may not have tuned in last year, Nafisa and I had really amazing conversation around birth experiences. And Nafisa had her daughter last year. Was it last year?
2 years ago now.
2 years ago now. My God, that's flown by. I was thinking it can't be a year ago because I don't remember it being that close in memory. But mashallah, 2 years ago, and Nafisa and I met through her doing one of my hypnobirthing courses, and Nafisa's energy and her knowledge really sort of shined out to me, and Nafisa was really keen to be able to help others through because of the experiences that she'd had. So Nafisa, you tell us a bit about yourself and what you've been up to.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Tasneem, thanks for having me again. I love that we do this every year.
We should make it our little tradition because I
see a Ramadan tradition now.
Yeah. I'm like a boomerang. I keep coming back.
So I have created a company called Nest to Nurture. We're based in Leicester, and that's, as you said, that's my way of contributing back to the whole motherhood experience and everything that I've experienced postpartum. I wanted to create different services and different tools that women can use locally, where they are also prioritizing their postpartum journey. So you met me when I was in my third pregnancy, and by the third time, I realized where I'd gone wrong with the first postpartum, second postpartum. I had a very rough experience with both of them. So Nest to Nurture is the services and the packages and the postpartum care that I've created, which I actually did for myself in my third postpartum. So alhamdulillah, we're a year old now, so we've been around for a year, and alhamdulillah, the amount of mums and women that I've been able to help and been able to work with, it's just proved to me that, I think we've said this before, Tasneem, it's like, this is not just a job to us.
No.
We're so passionate about what we do, and we really do care. And you do see that in the outcomes of our work, when we actually help mums, and to other people, it might be like something really small or insignificant, but to us, it's so powerful, just like holding space for a woman, turning up to her door when she needs you, sending food, kind of being there, as you're a midwife, being there when she's laboring. That's like, subhanAllah, that's such a important type of support that a woman needs. So, it's been amazing, alhamdulillah.
I think especially because given the current situation in maternity care, a lot of women are, there's been a huge rise in things like birth trauma. There's been a huge rise in injuries post-birth and the kind of deliveries that we're seeing now. So when we think back to sort of what is the norm, we're seeing a decrease of women experiencing physiological birth and more intervened birth, which is a whole different conversation. But in terms of their recovery, a lot of the younger girls, I think they have no idea, and they're very much like, I've seen people order a box of pizza post-birth, and it's like, no, that's not going to be beneficial to your tissue recovery. It's not going to be beneficial to your internal healing. And a lot of this creates inflammation within the body. And being someone who now has much more insight into postnatal care from a very traditional perspective, I feel like as if the knowledge is very much died out, and it has very much been like that across the world. So globally, there are sort of those cultures that were very famous for their postnatal care, like the Malaysian, Indonesian, even the sort of very eastern side of the world. You would see that they have certain practices, the 40-day confinement period, and we now see people being really like, oh, when can I go for a walk? When can I go outside? But actually the postnatal period is such that your body is out of balance. So pregnancy is considered to be a cold and wet a sort of season for your body. So once baby's born, we need to bring this into balance by adding heat and balancing out the cold and wetness, because too much cold and wetness is going to be create a perfect storm for like tiredness, fatigue, muscle soreness, and then weakness in the body eventually if we don't balance this out with warmth and with tissue healing. So I know that some of the focus that you have on nutrition. So if you just talk through, what did you do? You know, did your first postpartum and second postpartum experience look like? And what was that compared to your third?
So the first postpartum, of course, like I had no idea about everything you just mentioned. We were just ordering takeouts, like you said, like just completely oblivious. I was eating curry. I think my first meal after I delivered, someone handed me a box of biryani.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
and it was tasty, but it was spicy, and of course, it wasn't the best thing that I was supposed to eat at that time. So I've had 3 natural deliveries, alhamdulillah, but even then, it's like you still need to take care of yourself, and you need to be able to heal and have the optimal condition of your body to be able to do that. So the first postpartum experience, I did have postnatal depression afterwards. I didn't have a village. I didn't have a community. I was quite new to Leicester then as well, so I didn't really know many people. I remember like a midwife coming and she was like, "Where is everyone? Like, why are you alone?" I just had no idea of the tools that you needed. No one ever taught me that. I never really experienced or witnessed that. So that was my first one. And I think from there, I started looking into postpartum. I started reading about it, gathering with other women, asking other women, like, how was it for you? And then I realized, okay, I didn't, like, that wasn't the best postpartum experience. How can I improve it the next time? With my son, my second postpartum period, so I birthed him in winter. It was January. It was absolutely freezing, and with that postpartum, I wasn't really aware of how you're supposed to keep warm, and how you're supposed to have like warming foods, hot foods.
Mm-hmm.
And you're supposed to wrap up. You're not supposed to go out. So I think what I missed the second time was how to physically care for myself, and how to kind of not go out when it's freezing. It was like snowing at that time of year and all sorts. So I think that's where I dropped the ball with the second one. So alhamdulillah, obviously that was a lot of years of research, reading, experiencing things for myself, also going to classes, going to courses, and just learning, just alhamdulillah, just learning. And that's what I would say to any mom who's expecting, or any mom in whatever season that you're in. Always be open to knowledge, and always be to taking extra courses. Take the parenting course, take the pregnancy, hypnobirthing course, whatever it is. These are things so that you can have an optimal experience.
I feel like as if a lot of people rely on what's sort of very feebly available within like friends, family. Some people would also do like a course, the cheapest course online that they can find. And I always say you will get what you pay for. And, we both are in the private sector. We obviously have paid services, which fill gaps, and we'll come on to this. But failing to prepare is preparing to fail, because the thing about this time period is that people don't realize how transformative Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it in terms of the becoming of a mother through her pregnancy, her labor journey, the birth, and then the postnatal period. Almost, going back to what I said about how a lot of women don't have potentially straightforward births, it then means that they feel quite like disconnected. And they then keep getting further disconnected. Inflammation increases. Baby's not feeding, mum's stressed out. And what I've learned is that the state of your baby, how your baby is, if your baby is super unsettled, if your baby is not feeding as well, if you're having struggle with feeding, if your baby's really gassy, it's basically a reflection of you as the mum. And people don't get that. People think that the baby's, not behaving as it's supposed to, and it's a naughty child. And no, your newborn is behaving completely in a normal way. But it's that lack of understanding and the lack of knowledge about newborn behavior, but also about the impact the mother's physical and emotional well-being has on that newborn.
Of course, like I totally agree with you. I'd say with my first postpartum, like I emotionally struggled a lot with the depression and things like that. And then the second time, like I said, physically I was struggling. And subhanAllah, Tasneem, it took me, I'd say around until he was 5 to recover from that birth, because even though I had a natural delivery, I just obviously, like I said, I dropped the ball when it came to like nutrition. Like there was no nutrition going on. There was no keeping warm, doing some pelvic floor exercises, core strength, all that stuff. So over 5 years, it took me so much longer to recover from having a baby. And subhanAllah, like if I compare it to my third, so my third, with all this knowledge and this learning, alhamdulillah, I honestly had the best postpartum period that I could imagine for myself. And I say that with so much pride because that was like my effort and my hard work that really went into that.
You were buzzing from it, I remember.
I had such a good postpartum, alhamdulillah, because I had all the things in place this time. I had, the freezer was stacked with food for like the next 3-4 weeks. I had a whole village around me. I had people coming to my door, dropping groceries, everything I needed. I just said, this is what I need. And in the gaps, I paid for services. So I paid for someone to come and clean when I couldn't do it. I paid for a babysitter to watch my other 2 kids when I needed a rest. Like whatever it was, I paid for the gaps that I had in my postpartum care. I had excellent nutrition, alhamdulillah. So I would say even though I'm older this time, I'm like, I had a 5-year gap. My recovery was so quick. Within a year and a half, I was like back to normal, I would say. And I did do PT sessions as well. So personal training sessions, like postpartum one. So that was focusing on my pelvic floor and my core. And I would say that's essential for every woman. I would say that. And I think you do Pilates, so you can maybe explain it as well in terms of.
So I never did anything postnatally in terms of like PT or I remember my mum telling me to wear a hot brick, so she'd put a brick in the oven, and I swear she couldn't tell me the science behind it, so I never did it.
That one.
No, honestly. So it's supposed to. It's like a hot compress. So you know that I do that, like the postnatal massage or belly binding and stuff. So she booked me. I was in so much. I was just completely out of it. I was completely frazzled. I really was like sleep deprived. Emotionally, I was just like a roller coaster. And when I landed at my mum's, my dad was like, right, okay, there's some postnatal like doula person in the community, like get her to come round. And bless my dad, paid for this woman to come and give me a massage. This woman's massage was like, I don't know what kind of massage she did, but I was in agony. I was actually like kicking her off me by the end because I was like,
it's really kind of intense, the postpartum massage.
But
the traditional one, anyway.
The traditional one, yes. What I've learned as a practitioner is obviously more gentle, because the thing is, the soft tissue damage is very real. So the thing about being like doing the work I do now, which I didn't actually do last year, is that we need to balance it with evidence. So even though traditional care is, it's super knowledgeable, there's lots of wisdom behind it, we need to balance it with the evidence. And that's kind of what I've done moving forward in terms of attending courses, the research and things that go behind it. So that massage was not conducive to me, and I never had one after that. I was like, if anyone mentioned postnatal massage, I was like, no, thank you. But then like, the lack of sleep, the emotional turmoil, it just was like, it was awful. And then like post-birth recovery, I think in terms of because I had an episiotomy, someone can go, if you're interested in what that is, then please go and Google it. I'm not going to get into that. But I felt like it didn't heal externally, internally, for about 4 months. And then I did start up like 1 session a week. I used to do like mum and baby exercise. And then I kind of exercise on and off ad hoc. I did join a PT just before I started my Pilates journey, and I did that for about a year and a half. Because what I realized was that was like, for example, when I used to pray Salah, I would go down, but you know when you go into sajda and then you're sat and you're praying, I couldn't quite get my calves down to touch my heel, like so I was always at a slight incline. And I just think, why is that? And I thought, oh, maybe it's because I'm really tall and, like, I don't know. I thought it was something to do with that. And actually then I started unlearning a lot of the stuff through the exercise of the personal trainers, and then joining a studio for Pilates it's going to be nearly 3 years ago. And what I've noticed since then is that my body shape has completely changed, because I was very round in my midsection. Like I look like, I don't know, a 50-year-old like auntie, and I was in like my late 20s, early 30s. But through the Pilates, the core restore has been absolutely amazing for me, because I can see it, I can sense it, I can run for 10 minutes, trying to catch a flight or a train or something that I'm, and I don't actually like leak urine, or I don't struggle with my breathing, and that's just me doing it maybe 2 to 3 times a week max.
Pilates is really good. Like, I think every woman should be practicing Pilates.
For sure.
Because for me, I'm very sporty, so I play football, basketball, all different sports. But if you miss the midsection,
you're in trouble.
You can carry weakness there for a long time, and that's what happened after my second pregnancy. I was being sporty, running, everything, but I had a massive weakness here, to the extent where I used to get a lot of kidney pain. I thought it was low back pain, but it was my kidneys. From that postpartum period, the cold really set into that area, and it took me so many years. Like I said, I had to go to like a private practitioner. I had to do a cleanse, and then I had to get that warmth back into my body. And I used to get very intense pains. So I was a bit nervous when I had my third child, that was it going to happen again. But alhamdulillah, like I said, because I planned my postpartum care down to a T, it didn't happen, and I didn't have to suffer that way. And I just think from suffering from the second postpartum period, and then how I was just buzzing the third time. And I really had them happy hormones. I had the right nutrition. I had so many people around me, like holding space for me. And I think one thing that I also learned from the work that you do is about the importance of containment. So if, for the ladies who don't know, when you're postpartum, you're in such a tender situation. You're so vulnerable. It's one of the most vulnerable periods of your entire life or experience as a woman. Containment is when you have one or two people where you can anchor onto them, and they can turn up for you, and they're the 2 people or 3 people that you can go to and you're relying on. And if they're stable and they're holding space for you, and they're creating kind of a bubble around you, if that makes sense, then alhamdulillah, a lot of the time you see that the mental health of the mom
improves massively.
Yeah, definitely. And that's your support system. It doesn't have to be, 10 family members around you or something like that. Containment is about the bubble. It's about having 1 or 2 people where when it's that time where you've just birthed. You might be really, in pain from a C-section. You might be recovering from that. You might have had a natural birth, but of course you're exhausted after that experience. You're waiting for your milk, that kind of time where you're just in the bed really, and you need that 1 or 2 people to show up for you and to make you feel safe. I think that's one thing that a lot of my clients, they don't feel safe after they birth. There's people knocking at the door downstairs. They feel pressure. They are still trying to please other people around them. And this is a period where you need to really focus on yourself. You need to have boundaries.
It's like we say that you draw them out, like you basically, there's times where people can come and visit and, see the baby, because it's a time of excitement as well. It's a time for family. And that's absolutely fine. But, I feel like women are so like demoralized after giving birth, because then there's this expectation that they then have to host and, freshen up so that they look well enough to sit in front of a room full of people. And whereas mum should be like in her room. And I normally prescribe for clients to say the first week is on and around the bed, pretty much skin to skin, establishing feeding, being fed, being hydrated, everything, hydration, nutrition is all being looked after. And mum pretty much just gets up to potter around, stretch gently, mooch around the house, but very much stays on and around the bed. Second week, on and around the sofa. Again, very much establishing feeding, being fed herself, being nourished, kept hydrated. And then you kind of move on to a little bit more activity beyond that until you've got like your 40 days up. But that 40-day period is so important. When you look at ancient practices, it would be that a family would reserve a postnatal carer for the mum, and that would be every day, which she'd have a massage, belly binding, daily, and she'd keep that all on for 6 hours, and it was literally like a ritual. I remember things like, people saying that women don't wash their hair for the 40-day period. And there's wisdom in this stuff, in that you are preventing that cold and wetness from entering the body, which is to protect that balance, to help with emotional stability, to help with physical recovery as well. And
so if you just from what you've mentioned, like if you compare the British or UK kind of postpartum experience in comparison to some of the East Asian countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, China, these type of countries, where they have care every single day. They pay someone to come to the home, and they have, it's just non-negotiable. It's an essential part of the woman's experience as she has another child or her first child. So that's, and if you contrast that to how we experience postpartum here, even for ladies who have lots of family and have a support system, even then, I don't think someone's coming every single day to care for the mum. I think it's probably kind of ad hoc or here or there. So I think that's why Nest to Nurture exists. That's why I've created a company that's like this, a care company that can come into the home and can focus just on the mum. So a lot of our services, we do postpartum packages for mum. So that includes like at-home massage, like you just mentioned, nutritional food. So there's a food service as well. We do home visits. We do express cleans for mums. Like in terms of whatever
it
she
makes
needs.
such a difference, doesn't it?
That's the team that deliver a range of different services for mums, whatever they need. So that's something that we've created to fill the gaps and to have that essential care. I think we are moving towards that now in the wellness industry. I think women are becoming more educated about how our health and post-birth, how to care for ourselves. So like I said, that's why I started Nest to Nurture. In terms of having the people around you who can care for you, I would say to women, I do also virtual coaching, so for pregnancy and postpartum, because it is a time where you need a safe space to speak. You need to be able to talk to someone and get advice on how to manage and cope with the things that pregnancy, birth, postpartum throw at you sometimes. I say to a lot of my clients that before you're even pregnant, especially when you're pregnant, you need to be building that village for yourself. So I know a lot of people might be able to rely on family and stuff like that, but there's also equally as many sisters that I've met who their family is abroad, or they don't have many people in their family. They don't have many friends. Like they are quite isolated. It's when you do this work, then you realize there is a lot of sisters that actually need help.
There are. And this is so important because this health recovery then affects them for the rest of their life. I mean, I know that women talk about, and I mean women in terms of older women who are older than me, and, they'll be asking questions about the work that I do, aunties that are, my aunties and things like that. And they always say things like, oh, but I thought that was because we've had babies. I was like, no, it's not normal. It's not normal for you to experience that. It's not normal for a woman to be doing that in her 40s or her 50s. I say to women, when I used to work in the NHS, I used to do postnatal visits. And on the postnatal visits, I'd always say when it comes to pelvic floor, but being an NHS midwife at the time, our training doesn't give us the tools required to be able to specifically advise on, we'd refer to women to be doing pelvic floor exercises, but not, just do your Kegels, your squeezy exercises. But actually, that's not going to heal your core. It's not going to heal your pelvic floor. Might tighten it, but actually that could also be problematic. And I always say to women, look into pelvic floor recovery, because it's so important as a woman aging, because pregnancy will knock it out of you, aging will knock it out of you, and then when you're older, you're struggling with pain and painful lower back and weak muscles and incontinence. That's no fun for anyone. It really isn't, and that's the investment that you make when you plan your postnatal care.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that every mom needs to take responsibility for her own postpartum care.
Yeah, that's like the crux of it, isn't it? If you don't take that responsibility, then you can't expect anyone else to show up for you if you're not showing up for yourself.
Definitely. I think with birth, of course, you can prep for birth, but you never really know what
that's never guaranteed.
But with postpartum, you can plan. You can plan for it. So that's a responsibility that I encourage women to take. Ask your husband for a budget. Save up when you're working, even before you're pregnant. If you're planning to get pregnant, save up, have a fund, have a birthing fund, have a postpartum fund, because this is extra care that you can pay for yourself. You can access it, and it does pay off. That's one thing I can say from my experience over 10 years of motherhood. It does pay off to have that care and that nurturing, and also the longevity of your body. So if you want a body that is strong, you want a core that is strong, you want to be running along with your kids, you want to be able to pick them up, you want to be able to get on the floor and play with them. If you want to be that type of mom, then you do need these tools in place so you can have a good recovery and you can have strength in your body still.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to turn to questions because I had quite a few come through on Instagram this morning. Let's have a look at this one. I'm going to go to this one because it kind of goes into what I was just about to say when I realised that this always happens. We have these chats and then it's like, oh God, we've got a short amount of time left. How can my husband help during this period? For one thing, your husband can provide you. So women talk about. I mean, I'm not this type of wife. My husband should be really lucky that I'm not one to demand things like push presents and things like that, because it never was a thing back then.
Yeah,
but I'm quite low maintenance. I'm a giver. I like doing things. It's like my love language. But ask your husband for like, and if he set a budget, people talk about, having these elaborate baby showers and, photo shoots and stuff. And that's all amazing. That's lovely. But if you are then broken, in pain and, unable to control your urinary flow, what use is any of that? Yeah. It really isn't. And I don't mean to say this well, do you know what? I'll say it as it is. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it, because we need to take responsibility for ourselves as women. I feel like as if we kind of wait for someone's going to come and save us, someone's going to help us with something. And then if someone isn't doing it, then we kind of get on with it ourselves. But I feel like as if women really need to step up for themselves and for their children, but also what you do, your daughters are going to do. They see you as a reflection of what is the norm. So get your husband to help by helping you start planning for your postnatal period. Whether he's funding it financially or it becomes your push present. I don't think, in my opinion, a woman can get a better push present than a very, pampered postnatal period whereby she's weighted on hand and foot. She's having massages. She's connecting with her baby. She's not stressed out. She's not emotionally fried. and she's able to then sleep well to a certain extent. Obviously, being a new mum, sleep kind of goes out the window. But, you know, being able to balance that out. So definitely for the husband to get involved in one capacity or another.
And like I said about that period of containment, the husband is really essential.
It's
in that
essential
period
part
as well.
of it.
So him just kind of being a bit stable for you, being around, being present, and just being that person that you can come to when your emotions are full, when you just need a cry, like whatever it is, when you need a hug. You know, it's nice to have the husband there for that as well.
Yeah, that's really important. Okay. Can you explain more about postnatal diet, please? You mentioned, I was actually going to say this and then I completely lost my train of thought earlier when you mentioned that you had a biryani post-birth. So we say spice, obviously like chili spice isn't recommended because it can also upset baby's stomach if you're breastfeeding. But spice itself isn't a bad thing post-birth, but you've got to have the right kind of spices. So you've got to have spices that are warming, so like lots of ginger, garlic. You've got cinnamon, black pepper, turmeric. These spices can then be added to things like soups, you know, making broth. You've also got really beneficial to add flavour as well, lemon and lime. They can be added to food to encourage digestion and to be able to help with, mainly digestion, but also to add a bit of flavour. You've got lots of easy to digest kind of foods because what you don't want to do is make your body then create more inflammation by having really heavy, hard to digest food. So more sort of soups, broths. I know you make a broth and sell that, Nafisa.
So, of course, when you've just had a baby, it's all about, you know, your insides, your organs, everything needs to move back. Your stomach has been, you know, squished and it's kind of it's healing now. Your womb is healing, all of that stuff. So it's about having foods that are easy to digest, and also warming and nurturing for what's happening and how everything's going back to the way it was, and also healing from the inside. So we do a postpartum food service, and a lot of the initial dishes is like broths, soups, you know, the amazing staple chicken soup that everyone has after that our moms make for us, alhamdulillah. And also different soups. So we have like a Korean soup.
Is that congee?
No, so it can be, you can put rice in and make it congee, but it's a beef bone broth, and it's absolutely beautiful. Like I have it even I have it all year round because it's so nice. But the idea is you want to have soupy foods so that it's easy to digest and it's not stressing your body out more. So the main thing is that your digestive kind of area needs to be as stress-free as possible. So that's why the soups and broths are advised.
And lots of protein as well, because muscle repair you need protein for it. And so encouraging yourself to have higher protein meals will also be really important. So soups are normally made with like either chicken or lamb.
Yeah, and the broths are made with have the nutrients of the meat as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have to have bone in them. So a lot of us kind of don't like meat on the bone, but the bones have to be within that. Even if you don't end up eating meat on the bone, it's important that you have the bones with the meat in there, because that's where a lot of the nutrition comes from for healing. So protein, soups.
Herbal teas are great as well.
I was going to say, I was just going to come on to it. I was thinking, what else did I want to make sure that I covered with that? Things like ginger tea, chamomile
red tea as well. So gingerbeet date tea.
Yes.
So I actually sell that product as well on my page. It's a red date tea and it's so popular. It's got ginger, goji berries, red date tea. It's like a TCM, Chinese postpartum tea. And it's like a blood tonifier, so it restores that kind of production of blood and iron and things like that. So if for anyone who's experienced blood loss, that's good thing to drink, inshallah.
Inshallah, yeah. So these teas will then maintain things like hydration. So you need to stay optimally hydrated, because that's a state of the body that you need to be in. But then you're using the teas to also add warmth back into the body, and trying to avoid anything that is going to give you gas. So like cruciferous vegetables, things like cabbage. Sweet corn peas, because they have a cellulose shell, which makes it harder to break down. They say early days beef can cause inflammation, so just to be mindful of that you're not eating like the beef broth is fine because it's from the thing, but it's not that you're actually eating beef meat, because that can cause inflammation. And supplementation, a lot of people are very sort of hot on taking a pregnancy supplement, and then once baby's born they often forget to, but having a good a well-rounded multivitamin is really important, especially because it will help you with internal recovery, maintaining things like essential nutrients like magnesium, because for muscle repair you've got magnesium. So if your body's using up your magnesium, then you're going to be depleted in magnesium. So having things like, like a really warm bath with magnesium salts, using pure sea salt in your cooking instead of like table salt, which can actually make, have a negative impact on your health.
Also, in terms of snacking, so I know like when we just had a baby and we get our appetite back, and when we're starting to breastfeed, we snack a lot, and that could look like junk, crisps, chocolates, all this stuff. We actually provide healthy snacks as well for mums. That's part of our postpartum food service, and in there you're going to get all that nutrition. So like dark chocolate, sea salt, peanut butter, like
all the healthy stuff.
All the things that you need, that so you can snack as much as you want and guilt-free as well, because you're breastfeeding, but you can have the nutrition. So or try to make your own things like energy balls and things like that with dates, definitely, because that's something we have the soups, but then we also snack, and then it's not kind of the best plan.
I've just been given the heads up. Our show today is coming to an end, but I just want to thank you so much, Nafisa, for stepping in, for sharing your wisdom, and also being able to share with us what services you provide, inshallah, for the community. Please do reach out to her. She's Nafisa, and she can be found on socials via Nesta Nurture. And for those of you tuned in late, I'm Tasneem, and I will be back next Friday, 10 till 11, inshallah, with another topic related to the fourth trimester. Jazakallah for listening, and remember us in your du'as, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.